the best in the world. That's every racing driver's ambition in this thrilling sport. Here is Stirling Moss, coming into the pits now. Stirling, what makes a good racing driver?
It's very difficult to say. Theorists think you must have a perfect sense of balance, timing, superb sight, abnormally quick reactions, and a cool, calculating mind. I think it'd take a whole book to describe, and I've been trying to write one, but complete physical fitness is essential. How was that lap time, Keeper?
1:59.8.
I hope I can do a bit better than that.
You were lapping at 90.2 miles an hour.
Yeah, so have 2 or 3 others, and I want to be in the front row tomorrow.
And he was away again. We are at Stirling Moss's pit the day before a Grand Prix race. Practice laps are in progress to determine starting positions for the race tomorrow. The fastest drivers during practice starting in front. Anyone who thinks a motor race is simply a matter of cars and drivers should be here with us. Ken Gregory, I believe you look after the entire pit for Stirling. How do you prepare for a Grand Prix?
As team manager, I'm responsible for making all the preliminary arrangements before the race and for the organization of the pit during the race.
What do you consider the most important functions of the team manager during the race?
To see that everything goes smoothly in the pit and to help the driver plan his tactics for the race.
How do you do that?
With prearranged signals by which I can tell the driver what is going on.
And what about the car? Who looks after that?
That is the job of the chief mechanic, Tony Robinson.
What's the most important part of your job, Tony?
To check over every tiny detail of the car before the race, and during the race organise an efficient pit team to help Stirling.
I see. Mr. Lawrie, you were telling me earlier that you were a pit marshal. What exactly does that involve?
Broadly speaking, my job is to keep the pit clear of everybody except those authorized to be there. During the race, I also note the time and reasons for pit stops.
And what about you, Mr. Matthews?
I am the scrutineer and responsible for checking that competing cars technically comply with the rules and are safe.
And Mr. Browning, you're a flag marshal. What do you do?
Well, we're posted all around the circuit to warn drivers of danger ahead and to signal to them if another driver is trying to pass. We have an international code of flag signals, such as a yellow flag, motionless, means take care, danger, whereas the same flag, wave, means great danger, be prepared to stop.
And what do you do about dangerous driving?
Oh, that is the observer's job, Lord Aberdare. Observers are stationed around the course, and they report any bad driving to the clerk of the course.
And if there's an accident?
That's the observer's responsibility, too. They have to use their judgment as to whether an ambulance, fire tender, or doctor is required.
How interesting. Thank you very much. By the way, we have a microphone in Stirling's car, so I'm going over to him now to see how he's making out.
We're accelerating through the pits in second gear, up into third, and then fourth. Get up to about 140 miles an hour down this, the second fastest straight. About 150 yards, put on the brakes quite hard, down into third gear for a 100-mile-an-hour right-hand curve. Go a bit easy on the throttle at the beginning and then hard down and up to 125 miles an hour again. Then hard on the brakes, down into second for a 90-degree corner to the right, which would take about 40 miles an hour. Around this, hard on the throttle again, just holding the car while it accelerates away. Up into third, and around 100 miles an hour, and then onto the brakes again, down into second for a 95-degree bend to the left. We take this at about 35 miles an hour. It's very slippery on the exit, this one. You have to go a bit carefully on the accelerator. Now shorten to straight, off again onto the brakes, and a left-hand corner, about 40 miles an hour, 90 degrees. Again a bit careful on the throttle. Accelerating again up to 90 miles an hour, and then a right-hand curve, which will take it about 60, leading into a straight, and hard on the throttle once again, and full bore in third, which is about 120 miles an hour. Off the throttle, onto the brakes, and into a long, sweeping right-hand curve that leads into the straight. Accelerating around this quite hard now, and the wheels are spinning. Up to 125 miles an hour, and then we snatch fourth gear, And we're into the straight, a place where we can relax a little bit and have a look at all the gauges. Reach about 160 miles an hour on the straight. We're now approaching Melling Crossing. We brake hard at 200 yards, down into third, and through the crossing, which is about 115 miles an hour, left hand and then right hand zigzag. And left to the right-hand side of the road, clipping the grass on the right. Then down into second, and we're back to the pit area again with a 40 mile an hour right-hand turn.
Stirling's been practicing test laps for over 3 hours now, as he's still trying for a better starting position tomorrow. Here he is, coming into the pits again.
Is that any quicker, timekeeper?
Yes, it was. 158.7, making your lap speed 90.6 miles an hour.
What would happen if this was an actual pit stop?
Pit stops are very infrequent in Grand Prix racing because you can go 300 miles without taking on fuel. But if you do have to stop, speed is all important. We practice over and over again until everything is automatic. Of course, we've lot to help us. Pressure fuel hoses feeding 50 gallons of petrol in 10 seconds, oil syringes which inject up to a gallon of oil in one go, quick lift jacks which raise 2 wheels of the car in one downward movement.
Earlier this afternoon, we recorded Stirling doing an instructional pit stop with his technicians. And here it is.
I screech to a halt, cut the ignition, leap out and grab a glass of water. The rest is up to Tony.
Up with the jack, knock off the wheels.
20 gallons of fuel in, put the cap down, fuel hose back on the counter.
Pick up the nearest wheel, put another wheel on, tighten the wheels up, down with the jack. Nip round to the front, clean the windscreen and check the oil.
I leap in as soon as the refueling's over, so I'm ready to go when Tony's finished.
Shoving off now is away.
Seconds to change 2 wheels, fill 20 gallons of petrol, add oil and clean the windscreen. I must have a word with my garage. Stirling, I'd love to meet all the principal people connected with the motor race.
Right, come along with me.
Tell me, Stirling, what do you think you need most for motor racing?
Money. Racing isn't cheap for promoter or competitor. The main expense for an entrant of a car or team of cars is the maintenance of the cars themselves, not to mention the payment of the mechanics and drivers.
And promoters, I suppose, have to give enormous prizes.
Well, the prizes are not so big, but drivers are all paid starting money, and this involves large sums. Then, of course, they have to provide for ambulances, police, loudspeakers, and so on. And the biggest expense of all is maintenance of the circuit. Oh, here's John Morgan. He's the senior official of the race meeting. Hello, John. Can you tell Lord Aberdare something about your various duties?
Certainly. My job is to put on the show, to obtain the entries, to appoint the professional and honorary officials, timekeepers, scrutineers, observers, marshals, and so on. Nearly 200 people in all. Additionally, various services, including the public address, medical, and firefighting, have to be arranged. General safety precautions are checked. And finally, as clerk of the course, I have to ensure that the race is run in accordance with the International Sporting Code.
You must be a very busy man. Thank you very much indeed. Tell me, Stirling, how did you get into motor racing?
Well, I suppose you could say I was born into it. My father was a racing motorist and my mother competed in rallies. So you might say there was a smell of petrol in my cradle.
And were you very young when you started?
Yes, I was 18 and raced first in a Cooper, entering for all the hill climbs that I could.
But you started international racing in a year. Did anything particular help you?
Yes, indeed. When I was 20, I saw Dr. Farina motor racing, a picture of relaxation, and I decided here was a famous driver on whom I'd model my own style. Later on, there was Juan Manuel Fangio. I've many people to thank, but none more than this world champion from South America.
Do you think there's anybody else I should meet, Stirling?
Well, there are the crowd marshals, whose main job is to keep the public behind enclosure barriers.
Yes, I've seen those barriers. They always seem to me unnecessarily far back.
That's a mistake many of the public make. But when you realize that a car traveling at 160 miles an hour covers nearly 200 feet per second, you'll see the logic of this. Come back to the pits now and let's see if we can find the paddock marshal and the starter.
What's the paddock marshal do?
Well, he ensures that you're notified when you're wanted for practice and generally controls activity in the paddock.
Do you think motor racing is dangerous, Stirling?
Obviously, motor racing is dangerous, but accidents arise from the unexpected more often than from mistakes on the part of the driver. Personally, I think practice is more dangerous than the race, as the driver does more experimenting.
But practice is compulsory, isn't it?
Oh, yes. All drivers must practice before the actual event. They must produce crash helmets, competition licenses, and medical certificates.
What do you concentrate on in particular during practice laps?
Many very technical things such as gear ratio, tyre size and pressure, suspension setting, but most important of all, I decide on lines that I'm going to take through each corner, and the cut-off points.
Cut-off points?
Well, that's the nearest point to the corner where I can brake.
I heard you say you like to start in front. Why is this?
Well, you have a better chance starting in front, and should there be an accident, you're not so likely to be involved.
It must be a wonderful feeling to be out in front.
Yes, but you can never depend on it. One moment you're in the lead and the car's going well, the next second, something goes wrong and you're out.
Stirling and I talked for some time, and then I said goodbye and wished him luck for the next day. And what a day it was.
Welcome to the Aintree circuit, which is now, I'm glad to say, drying out after a sharp shower this morning, and we'll hope for a dry road. No doubt you're all impatient for the big race of the day, the British Grand Prix itself, which will start at 2:30. This race is
They've just finished the sports car race, and the big race of the day, the British Grand Prix, is about to begin. You hear that siren? Well, this is sounded at 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and 1 minute before the start of the race.
I'm watching the starter on his rostrum. Blue and white up there on his rostrum, looking at his watches.
There's the starter raising the flag. It's down. They're off.
Watch out of the pit area, please. 64 is coming in as they're going to waterway. Travel in the lead. Jack Brown and the leaders are going to waterway.
And as I watched this thrilling race begin, I'm reminded of Stirling's answer when I asked him if he learnt something every time he raced.
Every year, the driver learns a little more. So do the designers of the cars. Speeds go up. There's no record which is not at the mercy of improved mechanical and driving efficiency. That which we regard as phenomenal today will become commonplace. Tomorrow's miracle will be the next day's normal.
In the light green DRM.